Thank you so much for joining me today and taking some time out. I really appreciate you coming on the Bragworthy Culture podcast.
Absolute pleasure. Lovely to be here.
So, tell me about yourself. And in that, I want you to also tell me something that I couldn't be able to detect from your LinkedIn.
Wow. Yes, I'm Matt Oxley. I am co-founder and president of a company called Opal. We sell marketing software to the biggest brands in the world. Airbnb, Microsoft, NASA being a few. Little about me is you can probably tell from my accent. I'm originally from London. I've lived in Portland for 10 years. I have two amazing daughters. So I'm a girl dad, a very proud girl dad. I love Star Wars. Something you don't know about me, I was once in a boy band. So
I'm sorry, what? You
I
got to
was
go back into that. I'm sorry.
I was once in a boy band, and yeah, the less said
That's
about
it?
that probably is the better. So
Okay, so I'm just going to tell all the audience members right now, go ahead, Google Matt Oxley boy band and send the results to me, if you would please. Awesome. So you are actually a co-founder at Opal in operation for 12 years. And tell me just about some of the big brands and milestones that you've achieved over this 12-year period.
yeah, so obviously with any startup and being a founder, it's been an incredible journey, and you know, all the way from the ideation of the original idea, all the way through to raising capital, all the way through to building a team, all the way through to finding product market fit, all the way through to scaling and everything like that. So I think the funding that you get, I think gives. I think as founders, that's probably your biggest milestone because they are huge kind of, effort goes into it, and you actually kind of see the results, and they get you on the next wave. So, I think doing we've done an A round and a B round. Those are probably the most significant kind of milestones that I think we've seen as an organization. But as you rightly said, we take great pride in the customers that we work from and big brands coming on. So we also those have been kind of like huge recognition points for us as well because we have the privilege to work with the brands that we respect and that we love because the software that we provide is allows them to tell better stories in market. So it's kind of like create their narrative better and get through to their audiences in a better and more considered way. So yeah, there's no really kind of one milestone. The way that I really think about it is, this is a journey. This has been like an 11, 12 year journey, and it's all chapters. Chapter one is like you're on the uptick, and you're scrappy, and you're like, all right, okay, what team do we need, and right, is this going to work? Can we sell? And then it's like, oh shit, we can. Sorry if I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but oh, we can. And then it's all right, well, what team do we really need to kind of like build and evolve and scale that? So through every chapter, you're learning changes and you evolve as a professional, but also you evolve as a business. So I hope that answers the question.
No, it definitely does. And I think that to anyone who may be listening who is in that pre Series A
Yeah.
funding or at A and just can't even imagine what it's like to go to B, what advice would you give them?
Specifically from A to B is you're proving the scale of your product. That is truly why people will come in at the B round is like, right, okay, we think you've got product market fit. You're obviously you're selling software, but can you get to the next stage? So it really is, it's understanding, the total addressable market, the opportunity, and really being able to, I think, depict that and knowing what changes will be needed to get from, scrappy startup to scaling enterprise organization that has different challenges. And the thing I'd say is there's no rule book for for everybody. Every kind of organization and team of founders is very different. But I think that is something to really consider is scale. Scale is fun, challenging, but you got to make sure you got the base metrics there with what you're doing, product market fit. Then it's like, right, where do we go? Where do we go from here, and how do we execute on that?
So I love what you said around scrappy to scaling, right? Because the basis is that you're still a startup in both
Yep.
of those phases. How has your approach to your most important asset, your people, changed from I'm a co-founder, I hope this works, to employee number 1 through 10 and to the
Mm.
number of employees you have today?
Yeah, I think it's a mentality change. And the kind of like 1 to 10 are very, very scrappy years. Like everybody does everything, everybody's sweeping up, everybody's doing kind of QA, whatever it takes to kind of like get to the next stage. And then once you do get to that point, what you need to do is, and this is just my humble opinion, you need to bring in the subject matter experts. These are people that have done it before, seen the movie before, they know how it ends, and what they can bring in is their experience. And I think that is so important and needed when you're getting on that next wave, because what they're going to do is they're going to allow you to move quicker and easy um, towards the goal, because they're like, look, go left, don't go right here. I've seen this and I've seen how it happens. So that's kind of what we did is we really doubled down and understood, right, you know you've got to move from generalist mentality to specialist. And that's easy but hard to do, because once you don't want to lose the DNA of being scrappy, but what you got to do
Hmm.
is you've got to kind of like make it okay for new subject matter experts to come in and set the table and set the standard and set the objective. And that's kind of like a bit of a kind of a mesh. And I think you've got to have good DNA where everybody understands what you're doing and why you're doing it, to get onto that kind of growth and scale model. But those are the things that I would say. It's subject matter experts, and it's allowing them and giving them the permissions to do exactly why you brought them in, is to scale the organization and educate everybody around them, because I think that is a very kind of vital point as well. And we've seen throughout our history a lot of you know um, scrappy generalists turn into specialists, and I think
Hmm.
that's lovely to see, because it's a you can see their deep kind of knowledge and wisdom coming through.
Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful thing when someone can grow with the organization. Like you said,
Yeah,
move from that generalist utility player to someone who can have that deep level expertise. And I
yeah.
know it can be rewarding as well. But there's a litany of benefits that you offer your employees at Opal, from competitive market salaries to, well-funded HSAs.
Hmm.
An employee today, what would you think, being a co-founder, the company is your baby, but a new employee coming to the organization today, what would they likely say is one of the best things about being an Opal employee?
um, I would say we offer a huge amount of flexibility. um, and also what we give people is the permission to find their own personal balance. And what I'm talking about is, post COVID, and I won't go on about COVID because I think everybody's been through it. Is we really kind of tapped into a new way of working and operating. We That's really kind of set in the kind of sense of, we employ great people, we employ great humans that we trust. And what we want to do is we want to give them the permission to actually create balance in their life. And what I mean is, the worlds were merging between, the personal, the professional, the social lives. It
Hmm.
was like, it's not unexpected to have a kid crying in the background or a dog leaping on your lap, right? That is normal commerce as we have it today. And what we wanted to do was we understood these merging of the worlds will happen, and we wanted to give people the permission to create their balance. If you want to go to, walk the dog, go to the gym, whatever it takes for you to find that well-being and that balance, we want you to go and do it. It's not an ask; it's a permission. We know
Hmm.
you're going to be a better person, better dad, better husband, whatever it might be, to do that. So we really were kind of like militant about giving people permission and ensuring that they were taking the time. The second thing that we did was we created open PTO. It was like, look, and we created minimums as well. It's like, we expect you to take 2 weeks minimum per year. and we're going to be on your case if you don't do that. So we created that. We then created something that we call First Fridays. And what we do is we give everybody in the organization the first Friday of the month off. And this is no questions asked, company wide. So there's a rule: no meetings, no Slack messages, no emails. Because what we don't want anybody to do is somebody works and they send an email and a meeting invite or a Slack message. Suddenly you've got 25 people engaged, where First
Right.
Fridays is meant as a day of balance for you. Go and run errands, go and spend time with your mum, go and do what you need to do to get, again, that balance. Because we know that that balance is going to create better humans, and therefore we hope that it's going to therefore create, better professionals and, the better performance for our business. So it was a subtle thing that we did. It was about, I think it was 18 months ago. And that is the one thing that I think people are very, um, they speak about very highly, and they love it
Mm-hmm.
because it's a day that is therefore protected for them. And they know that they get it once a month. So it's something that they can rely on. It's something that they can actually think about prior. And it's so we didn't want to shock people like, hey, guess what? You got next Friday off. It's like, no, this is in your calendar so you can plan, so you can actually create balance in your life. So that's probably how people would talk about it, or I hope that people would talk about it.
Yeah, I love the idea of the first Friday being company wide
Mhm.
because, like you said, it's one thing when you have that open PTO and
Yep.
not really being sure, like, am I taking enough? Am I letting my team down? But by telling everyone, no internal meetings, none of
Yep.
this, it actually allows you that true freedom to break away and focus on those things that are outside of work, which are
Exactly.
just as important to you, if not more so. I love that concept.
Cool.
So, you're leading edge in the way that you approach work, in the way that you trust your people. You treat them like adults. That's what I'm gaining from this
Yeah.
conversation. You've been a serial entrepreneur. You've actually started and co-founded other businesses outside of Opal. What is the lesson that you've learned over the series of businesses that you've had that you feel like makes you more solid in the human approach that you're taking today?
It's a really good question. It comes down to trusting the people, trusting the people that you're surrounded by. I mean, you employ them and you've interviewed them, and so you've got to trust them. And I think that is the key thing that has come through. Is like they want to succeed as professionals. You want to succeed as a founder and a leader of the organization. And I think if you can find that balance, which we're aspiring to do, and we're never done in our quest for that, then I think it will come through because you create a fun, vibrant environment where people can work, and that's really hard, post pandemic in a virtual world. And I think the job is never done, but that has been the one thing that I've always brought through is like trust the people, you know, trust the people. If you're constantly over their shoulder or second guessing or not giving benefit of the doubt or not receiving the context, it's like I don't believe as a leader you're doing your job.
So, what would you say has been the highest moment? Going through the pandemic, no one knew. I call the pandemic the great equalizer in leadership because no one knew what was next. We didn't know if we were going to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
vaccines within the next couple of months, let alone couple of years. In those
yeah, yeah.
hard moments, what were some of the ways that your people inspired you and you felt like you were inspired by even your clients?
It all culminated for me in June this year, where what we did is we had our first all company get together
In the history or
after the
post pandemic?
well, yeah, post pandemic, because pandemic happened, we closed our offices. We're finding our feet, we're evolving, we're adapting as every organization is. And then the restrictions were lifted so that we felt confident in putting on an all company event, and we flew everybody out to Portland, Oregon, and we had everybody in this central location, and the vibe and the energy and the fun that everybody had during that event was, and it's a 3-day event, was just amazing. And I think that is all the thought, energy, hardship that goes on is worth it for those moments, because I'm not sure about yourself, but I
Hmm.
feed off that energy. If the people are doing great work, energized. We feel the momentum in our business and our professional lives, and we love doing it together. The vibe is alive, and that's always been kind of like my litmus test. It sounds corny, but it's like is the vibe alive? Can you feel it? Is it there? It's an energy, and we certainly felt it in person when we were there all together. Because there's only so many things you can feel on Zoom and Slack. um, they're words. It's like what is it like when you actually physically, together and in front of people? It's like does it stick? Does it resonate? So that was the culmination of, I think, a lot of work that went in, and yeah, that's been a really kind of great moment. And the secondary thing I'd say is, we're starting to get the accolades now for the work and the path that has been paved, which is, we maintain really high EMPS scores of above 70, and that's with, like, nearly 100% participation from our company. And for the second year in a row, we've been nominated for best place to work. So, we're certainly starting to see the recognition of, the hard work that has been put in post pandemic for our cultural
No,
initiatives.
that's amazing. And I agree with you. Going from 2D to 3D, I like to reframe that, we're meeting in real life. This
Yeah,
is real life,
yeah,
right? And we're experiencing sometimes even more
yeah,
than that. Because like
yeah,
you said, the dog jumping into your lap, hearing the baby
yeah,
cry, that is our real lives. But being able to be in person
yeah,
in 3D, I think gives that opportunity to meet that person that you've worked with for 18 months, and
yeah,
connect at a different level. Is that
yeah.
something that you're planning to do on a consistent basis, whether that be annually or at another cadence?
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously seen the kind of the benefit and the lift of it. So, and culture is something we're going to continue to push, and you know, so yeah, every year that is going to be we call it camp. So we want to do Camp Opal every single year. And again, it's about, if you think about the purpose of it, it's
Hmm.
about building connections. Those connections will then help you, in the next kind of 6, 12 months. It's like build relationships, build connections. Um, so yeah, it's something that we're continuing
Yeah, that's
to do.
awesome. We have a very similar thing called Fringe Fest. We had our first one this year, and
Oh, brilliant.
people came in from all across the country into Richmond to the clubhouse to enjoy and, again, participate, meet people in 3D. It was also a
Yeah,
3-day event, so there were several activities, but it was really more focused about bonding and building relationships, than necessarily
yeah.
like, okay, now that we're all together, let's just do everything we usually do, but just in person.
No, and that's a really good point, because I think that's something that we were considering going in. It's like, well, no, let's bombard them with like
Hmm.
strategy and direction. It's like, you can do that remote, and I think what you've got to do is really stand back and understand. All right, you've got this opportunity of X amount of people together for 3 days. What do you want? And it is connection, it is bonding, it is that kind of shared experience that you want them to have. And I think you've got to bring enjoyment to that, because people are spending days away from their kids and their families, and I think that is the kind of direction that we went, and it is paying dividends, because then, to your point, you can do the strategy and do the direction and do the kind of more kind of, I think, corporate work, you know, at another time. No, there's not with saying, like, there are kind of there are key moments where it's like, look, this is what we're doing, this is the path that we're going on, but make
Make
connection the
connection the
priority.
priority. I hope that's one of your values because that's what I'm hearing come out in everything that you're saying. So,
Yeah,
as you look into the future, as you said before, during the pandemic, you had to close offices, and we're seeing this play out in the news, especially on LinkedIn. Some companies, I won't name them because I think we all
mm,
know who they are, like, you need to start coming back into the office. This was great when we were during the
yeah,
pandemic. You've
yeah,
proven that you can work from home, be productive, and do all of that, but we
mm,
still need that connectivity 3 days, 4 days, sometimes 5 days a week. Where do you see Opal in
yeah.
this hybrid, remote first, in office strategy?
Yeah, so we made the decision to go fully remote. So we had amazing offices in here in Portland, Oregon, and we decided to close them. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. One is we had been operating remotely for around 18 months, and we didn't see productivity drop. We actually saw it increase. We felt that the connection was with our employees was better than ever. So we were able to perform and produce and execute. That was the first thing. The second thing is talent. We were able to, and we had by that time, actually created a team that was more disparate throughout the United States. So we had a large kind of representation on the East Coast and Southern United States as well, and that was adding huge amounts of value to us because it was different perspectives, obviously experience as well. So we were certainly broadening our talent pool, and we wanted to continue that. So I think for us, it's really kind of continuing in that direction. We have no plans to really open and a central kind of headquarters anytime soon, because what we want is, and we know that we want equality for no matter where you are based. So what we've actually done is we've partnered with a organization called Centre. They're like WeWork. So what they do is they provide
Mm-hmm.
offices in every major city. Because also what we appreciate is, like, while I have a room here that I can use, if you're in a one bedroom apartment in New York or wherever you might be, it might be really hard. It might be really hard. So what we have is, if people want co-working facilities, we provide that. We provide that to anybody in the organization. If you want to use it 5 days a week, 1 day a week, half a day a month, it doesn't matter. That is open to you. Because again, it's like we try to find that balance and flexibility of what people need, even in this decision as well. So, for,
No, that's
advice from
actually
us.
pretty helpful. So, as we wind down, because I can't believe our chat is nearly over, what is one thing that you feel sets your organization apart that you would advise people listening in to really lean into at their organizations?
Something that I've learned, and it's been a personal and I think professional lesson, is um, really listening to your employees, your teammates. And I think there's a difference between, are you listening,
Mm-hmm.
but are you hearing? There's two for very. It's like, yeah, I hear you, but then are you doing something about it? And I think there's sometimes it gets lost in that little those two separate kind of ideas. And it really has been that is what has kind of set us on this path, is talking, listening, and truly hearing our employees to therefore make the micro changes that we do that add up to the macro changes in the culture that we have experienced. So otherwise you're in a bubble and you're making decisions, but you've no idea how, you know, the person in the one bedroom apartment, or, you know, other people are feeling and experiencing. And I think that comes down to truly understanding that flexibility is key. And that's what we were taught, and that's what we heard. So that's what we acted on. So that's been the big kind of lesson in this. Don't do it from your kind of
Mm-hmm.
ivory tower. You've got to truly understand everybody in the organization and provide mechanics and permissions for them to do what is actually going to make them more balanced and, hopefully better professionals and better humans. Because this is the impact that you have. You have the ability to influence your whole team. And then they have the ability to influence, if they're better, they're better mums, dads, husbands. They have the ability to then impact their families. Who then? So it's like, I take it really seriously, the kind of the opportunity that you have to provide a balanced perspective for every single individual, because I know the knock-on effect of that is extremely impactful.
Wow. That was very insightful, and I couldn't agree with you anymore if I tried. So, Matt, thank you so much for your time, for your insights, for your expertise. If people want to learn more about Opal, either to become a client or just about the business and the employees there, how can they best research that?
And they can go to workwithopal.com or email me direct at matt@workwithopal.com.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you for your time, and hopefully
Abs-
we'll get to chat again.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.